Hi, Ambi, welcome to our PEP Talks event today. Oh, wait, I'm going to start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of PEP Talks by Arka Leadership. PEP Talks is an initiative that aims to have one-on-one dialogue and interviews with CXOs, entrepreneurs, and leadership experts from around the world. These conversations deep dive into success and failure stories of leaders and organizations and what have been their learnings, what has been their experience, how have they bounced back from these spaces to achieve the vision of the organization and develop a culture that fosters growth and innovation. Uh, on this episode today, we have with us Ambi Parmeswaran. Ambi is a brand consultant, coach, founder of brandbuilding.com, a brand advisory firm. He's a much in demand speaker at corporate industry events and award-winning best-selling author of 10 books, including Nawab Nudes Noodles, India Through 50 Years of Advertising, Sponge, Leadership Lessons I Learned from My Clients, and Spring, Bouncing Back from Rejection. Ambi has spent his 40 years in corporate India with various companies like Boots, UDI, Rediffusion Advertising, and FCB Ulka, where he spent his longest corporate stint and working with some of the most well-known brands like Tata, Wipro, Z, TCS, Thermax, GSK, Amul, Nirma, and so on. Over the last 5 years as brand coach to several small and large brands and as mentor to exciting new startups, he also serves on the board of governors of IIM Calcutta and on several corporate boards as an independent director. He's a guest speaker, a guest faculty at IIM Calcutta, IIM Ahmedabad, MICA, and an adjunct professor of marketing at SPGIMR. Ambi's column regularly appear in Business Standard and several other business publications. We are absolutely honored and delighted to have you here with us today, Ambi, and it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving Arka Leadership the time for this conversation. Our whole mission to promote authentic leadership and conversations, therefore, within that is how we've come up with this series on PEP Talks. And today we'd like to talk about how to bounce back from rejection.
So first, Ashu, let me just thank you for inviting me onto this PEP Talk platform. Happy to be here. Happy to be speaking with such a veteran executive coach who served on the governing council of several respected coaching bodies. So the honor and pleasure is entirely mine. So thank you very much for inviting me here. And I hope what I'm going to share with you will be of some help and some use to your viewers and listeners. So thank you very much once again, and off we go.
Thank you. So I'm sure there are going to be lots of anecdotes and lessons for us with this conversation. I have seen rejection and failure as a fact of life. In fact, it's a lesson learned for me. It was something which was my bane. The fear of rejection is what had caused me to wall up and hide away my true self. So it's actually a topic very close to my heart. So here, I would really like to hear some stories of when you've experienced failure and how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, so youngsters today tend to think that, successful people like you or, like me, we've had it easy. We had great education, we had a great career, and everything was kind of given to us on a silver platter, so to speak. But in reality, anyone who's successful today has faced multiple rejections in their past. So, well, I had a great career in advertising, but the fact is I was rejected for a marketing job. In IIT, in my final year, when I applied to Hindustan Lever, I did a very lousy job in the interview. I got rejected, but I didn't deserve that job because I didn't answer a very simple question, and I realized that I don't think I'd have made a good fit in that company. But then the next, I got into IIM Calcutta. I thought, I will change course, and I focused on my studies. I did actually quite well in my first year. I came very near the top of my class. And so when Hindustan Lever came again for summer internships, again I applied, and I think 40 of us had applied, and I got shortlisted, and then finally there were two people who were called for the final interview. And I thought I made it, because I knew all the subjects, I had given all the good answers, I was reasonably well groomed and all that stuff. But they asked me a kind of a tricky question, and I gave a very, very, shall we say, a rational answer, and I got thrown out, and it was very disappointing. I mean, second time in literally 12 months, the same company rejecting you. Um, I kind of thought back, and I used what I call the power of redirection. I said, look, what do I want to do? I've got 3 months or 2.5 months summer holidays. Do I want to get into another FMCG company and do a kind of a field work kind of summer project, or should I do something different? And I said, I want to do the summer assignment in Kolkata because I want to spend time in Kolkata. Though, I don't know if they've been to IIM Calcutta. It's really outside the city. It's in Joka. It's like a little crucible. You never get to see what's happening outside in the city. So I said, I want to do something in Kolkata. And luck, we have it. There was a relatively unknown agency which came for a summer assignment called Rediffusion. I applied. I think I was the only guy who applied for a summer internship. I joined, and I enjoyed my 2-month summer internship. I discovered what was advertising and how the world of advertising was changing with the influx of MBAs. And then next year, when final placement came, Rediffusion called me and said, look, the head of the office, I was in touch. So the head of the office said, come, let's have a drink. I had a drink or two. And then he said, what do you want to do with your career? I said, look, tomorrow Hindustan Lever is coming, and maybe I'll apply. I've applied and I've been shortlisted. And so he said, what about advertising? So I said, look, are you offering me a job? He said, yeah. I said, okay, done. That's it. I mean, that was the interview, right? We chatted about all sorts of things. And then he said, are you willing to come? I said, yes. And that's it. We shook hands. And then I went back to campus, and I told my friends, and I'm joining Rediffusion. And they said, are you crazy? Because you're a top student and you're an engineer from IIT, and you will be completely bananas to join advertising. But I said, no, I'm planning to join. And then the next hurdle came up because I was shortlisted by Hindustan Lever. So they were expecting me to appear for the interview. I didn't have any letter or anything. So my friend who was a placement secretary said, look, you need to get a letter from Rediffusion saying they're making an offer, because we need to tell Hindustan Lever that so-and-so is not going to appear for the job interview because he has got a job. They say, okay, which company, what offer? So finally, whatever, something happened, and I managed to get a letter from Rediffusion. It's a 2-line letter, which they presented. I didn't appear, and I joined advertising. Imagine, I mean, rejected by Levers twice, getting into advertising, and then I spent 2-3 years, then I went into marketing, and the pull of advertising was very strong. I came back into advertising, and I worked in FCB Ulka, which is Ulka, became FCB Ulka for 26 years. But interesting tale, the little bit of a twist in this tale is, out of the 26 years in Ulka, I spent about 20 years working on a brand called Santur from Wipro. And Santur became the second largest soap brand in India by overtaking Lux in the year 2016 or 2017.
Okay.
So interestingly, Levers, which is the owner of Lux, rejected me. I was happy, and I went and did something else, and I managed to build a brand, which is an Indian brand for an Indian company, which actually ended up becoming bigger than Lux. So, I mean, somewhere fate works that way. So I had a wonderful set of clients. I worked with a wonderful lot of people at FCB Ulka. In fact, Ulka is celebrating its 60th year, this year. 60th birthday is this year, 60th anniversary this year. So out of that, out of 6 years of Ulka's life, I spent 26, 27 yeers there. Played some role in building that company.
That's close to half their life.
Yeah. So I would have been another cog there, but I managed to find a new direction. So it all started with rejection. My entry into, all I'm trying to say is, today people say that, okay, I'm a kind of very big success in advertising or whatever, it actually started with rejection. I was rejected once, twice, and then I got into this completely new line, and I managed to build, shall we say, a decent career in advertising. Right. So it all started with rejection. And a lot of successful people, you will find they're successful because they didn't let rejection beat them. They managed to overcome rejection and find new directions to explore. And that's what I did with my little story from rediffusion
Yes.
to
Yeah. So this really brings me to a wonderful place of asking how can one really depersonalize that feeling of rejection? Because what happens is, when you're youthful and you're confident and you're an IIT, you think you're cat's whiskers. It's a you're bound to have that feeling of that I am invincible. And when these companies reject you, it's a huge blow to the ego. uh, how can one depersonalize and move beyond that feeling of rejection to actually understanding that it's not to do with you, it's just maybe you don't fit in, that's it.
Absolutely. So when I started researching this topic for my book, I discovered that psychologists have this nice term saying don't take it personally, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so true. What they say is that what is being rejected is not you. Your CV has been rejected, or your proposal has been rejected, or your idea has been rejected. So learn to depersonalize this whole thing and say that it's not about me. You could be rejected because the interviewer was having a bad headache. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you, right? Or your idea was rejected because it was too ahead of its time, right? Or the idea was rejected because the person on the other side did not understand what you were presenting. So
Mm.
it's never about you, and you got to know that, have the maturity to know that the rejection is never personal. Rejection is always conceptual, and the more you're able to distance yourself from the rejection, the better off you are. And authors have this very interesting. Amitabh Ghosh said this in a talk, and I know a very famous Tamil author called Jayakantan wrote about it. And in a particular story of his, he's a Sahitya Academy Award winner. I love his books. So in one of the stories, it's about a lady who kind of doesn't have a father, so she's got a brother and two sisters, and she works through her life almost till she's 35, 40, helping her sisters get married and get educated and all that. And she's got a quote unquote boyfriend who stays with her right through her journey of over 10 years of this struggle. And at the end of the book, uh, he says, "What next about us?" And she looks at him and says, "I don't know. Let's see." So people ask Jayakantan that, look, this man has waited for her for 10 years. Why did she not marry him at the end of the story? And Jayakantan says it very beautifully. He says, she didn't marry him because she didn't want to marry him. But the fan asked Jayakantan, look, sir, but you could have made her marry him. So he says, look, I can't. I am just an author. And that lady decided not to get married to him. I wrote it. So don't blame me. So very interesting. He deepened, it's like he didn't take it personally, right? He's kept it out there. So Amitabh Ghosh also said this. People come and ask me, why did you have to kill this person?
Mm.
He said, I didn't kill that person. He died. I only wrote about it. So it's a bit like that, right? I mean, don't take it personally. People say that when you write a story, leave it out there. Let it be out. When I write a book, after that, the book is out there. So some people may like it, some people may not like it. That's fine. I mean, they are welcome to their opinion.
you
I
know
can't take it.
Ambi, when you're talking about the lady didn't marry this boyfriend of hers of 10 years, the first thought that goes through my head was, oh, finally, she must have thought I have my freedom. The next thought that the next thought that goes through my head is that, hey, see, this is what I did. I analyzed a situation which wasn't mine to analyze. And that is really what we do. We analyze everything to actually coming to a place of paralysis sometimes, because we are always looking so much into the why of everything rather than accepting it as is.
Exactly. So as a coach, you must be doing this all the time, right? I mean, don't overanalyze the situation. Okay, you got rejected, let it be. Don't start imputing motives into that. Saying he doesn't like me, he thinks I'm too dark, he thinks I'm too tall, he thinks I'm too old for the job. Don't get into this overanalysis. So it's a big lesson, which is don't take it personally. I think it's a valid lesson, applies to every one of us, right?
Yeah, the humor of life is that I got rejected by two banks, Stanchart and ICICI, because I didn't handle the interview well. I had a walk-in offer at Kotak Bank, and then after 6 months, I let go of it because I came across coaching. So, it's again comes to life sometimes has its way of coming around for you, and it has its surprises in store for you.
Yeah, when I wrote that story, a friend of mine who read my book said, "Look, who's the guy who joined, uh, who was selected by levers, and you got rejected?" And I gave him the name of the guy, and I said, "Yeah, he had a great career. He was there for almost 10 years, But he said, yeah, I've heard of him, but it's very interesting, very surprising." I said, "Yeah, but this happens, right? I mean, these things happen. It's okay. I mean, for a minute, it doesn't take anything away from Hindustan Lever. I have a huge amount of respect for that company. They do great work. They have fabulous team. I would have probably learned a lot if I had joined and worked there, but it's okay. I didn't, it's okay. It doesn't work out. Doesn't work out. It's fine." Which
True.
I think today's youngsters don't realize that. That's the. I know we'll probably be getting to that question
Yeah,
soon.
so we are coming to that you talk about in your book Spring. You've mentioned a three-step process to rise from rejection. Can you tell a little about that?
Yeah. So I know in my let me show the book so that okay people can
Sure.
see the book. And okay, so in the book, what I'm saying is that uh, we can keep over analyzing the rejection, but there's a very simple formula which I presented, which is learn to face. First is facing the rejection. When rejection happens, you cannot crumble, you cannot get crushed, you cannot get into a sulk, you cannot get into depression. Rejection is going to happen. So learn to face rejection. Once you facing rejection, the next step is processing the rejection. So take the rejection, put it out there. Don't keep it internally. Keep it out there, and start processing it. What happened? What did you do right? What did you do wrong? And to process it, you may need a coach. You may need a mentor, and learn to process the rejection. And third, learn from the rejection. What are you going to do differently? I think it was Einstein who said insanity is defined by a person doing the same thing and expecting
Over
different
and
results.
over again. Yeah.
You cannot get different results if you do the same thing again and again, right? So what are you going to learn from that rejection? So the simple formula is face rejection, process rejection, and learn from rejection. Now, if you do that systematically, then no rejection can set you back. Now, in the process of handling it, you may need the help of a mentor, you may need the help of a coach, but be ready to take that. Very often we have blinkers. We think, I may think I'm the most perfect public speaking expert, but I may not be. Someone has to watch my talks and tell me, look, this is what you're doing right, and the hand movement is too weird, or your voice is oscillating. You're doing too much of that. You've got a very funny South Indian Tambram accent. I'm oblivious to all that. So you need to get someone to advise you. So that is facing, processing, and finally learning. You got to learn from the rejection. So since you opened this up, let me talk about one important learning story. When I was in FCB Ulka, I think it was the year 97. India was opening up. A lot of new companies were coming into the country, and we were invited by Hyundai Motor Company to come and pitch. So they had shortlisted 5 agencies to come and pitch for that new business. So 4 of us got onto an aircraft, went to Chennai, went and made a presentation, showed some campaigns. But even when the presentation was going on, I realized that we were not making an impact. And when we walked out, I said, "Look, guys, we're not going to get this account because I don't think we know enough about the business." But some of my colleagues said, no, 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 I think we did a good job. I said, no, I'm sorry. And we went back and we didn't get the business. And the client was polite enough to tell, look, you guys don't know enough. You are talking, but you're not done enough understanding of the business. So we said, look, automobile as a category is going to be very important. If we did not get Hyundai, it doesn't matter. There'll be other auto companies who are going to come to India. And are we prepared? So we put together a team of 5 or 6 people who spent the next 6 months understanding the car business, understanding car advertising, both India and international. And then when Tata Motors, unveiled their new vehicle, which later got, named Indica, we went and met them. We invited them to participate in a case study competition, and 15 agencies were called to pitch for that business. 15, right? And we were the number one agency. We presented first, and from what the client told us, we were the best. So there was really no competition from the others. I mean, how was it that 6 months before, 5 agencies pitched and we were not even among the top?
Yeah.
15. Because I think we did a smart thing. We learned what we did right, what we did wrong, and we did a lot of things right in the Tata Motors pitch. And luck was on our side. In fact, the agency which won the Hyundai account managed to handle the Hyundai account only for about 8 years. After that, Hyundai brought their own agency into India, and that agency which had got the Hyundai account lost it. But FCB Ulka, which got Tata Motors, till date continues to handle the business. It's now what? More than 20 years, right? They still continue to handle the business. And for a long period of time, it was our number one client. Marquee work for Indica, Indigo, Vista, Manza, Marina, a whole lot of brands we launched. We did great work, and it was a very, very good account for us. But that success came from a failure. That success was built on a rejection. So fortunately, we learned what we did wrong, and we managed to correct our path, and we managed to achieve some level of success the next time around. So, but if we had said, no, 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 we are great, but the Hyundai management is fools, they can't make out, we are such a great agency, we wouldn't have got Tata Motors. So same thing happens, right? You get rejected and then you come back and say, no, no, the interviewer is a fool. I'm sorry, you're not going to get the next job again.
No, they're very true. And I've seen a lot of youth feel, brings me to a great point here of how do you recommend that the youth today, especially in a year which they've had to face so many rejections. There have been many organizations that have completely cut back on internships, jobs, especially at the lower levels, because that's where there's an optionality to cut costs the most. How can they build that resilience and agility? Because this whole Tata Motors example is a great example of having the agility to bounce back and having that resilience to stick it out and be proactive and know that you need to build your deck rather than focus elsewhere. Any tips on that?
I think what you're raising is a extremely important point that let's pull back for a minute. I think the young people in India for the last 15 years have had it too good, right? It's been, people get upset if they get a 10% increment. That's been our system here, right? For the first time, companies across board have implemented salary cuts. Salary cut is not something which this country is used to, right? You looked at, companies implementing salary cuts, companies implementing delayed recruitment. That don't join us now, we'll tell you when. And of course, companies have laid off people. But the point is, in the future, it's quite possible this may come back. This is going to be maybe the norm, that you will have huge periods of growth and some periods of shrinkage. I hope it doesn't happen. But young people have to be ready for it. Like what you said, they have to develop the agility, the resilience. Now, this can only come if they absorb what I think Carol Dweck writes about in her book, Mindset, which is the whole idea of a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Now, fixed mindset is where we think we are entitled. I've done my MBA from a top business school. I should get this job, right? I should get an increment every year. I should get a promotion every year. That doesn't happen. That may not happen, right? The growth mindset says, look, what have you done? What have you put in? So my question to someone who's been laid off is, one, hang in there, right? Two, use the time to learn something new, right? What have you done? Have you been sitting and moping and groping for the last 1 year, or have you taken the time to enroll for some online course on Coursera, edX, or whatever, and learned something new? If you've not done that, you missed an opportunity. And when you go for an interview, next time they're going to ask you, what did you do? What did you learn? And you say that, no, I was sitting at home and doing nothing. I was in some appraisal yesterday, and I was shocked that this guy's not gone to the office for a single day the last year, and he's done nothing. I said, what have you learned? Have you learned Python programming? He said, no, I'm not a programmer. I said, okay, what have you learned? Tell me what you've learned. Nothing. Zip. Right? So I said, look, I don't know why we're even evaluating this guy. Right? So the question the point I'm making here is that, what did you do this 1 year when you were sitting at home? Did you sit and mope and grope, or did you keep your confidence up? I know of someone who had got a job, but he didn't join that job, continued in his existing company, and he got laid off in October, right? And the other company said, we don't have a slot, right? So he was in panic, and his family was saying, take up any job. So he called me. Fortunately, I knew someone who knew him, and they made me talk to him. I said, look, you've been working in a good company. You've got 15 years of experience. If you now go and join an unknown small organization, that's going to mess up your CV. I would say hang in there, do consulting assignments, but wait. And 2 months ago, he called and said, look, I've been called back, and I'm going back to my old company. They've actually given me more money than I'm. So the point was, he was waiting for 6 months. He didn't make the mistake of taking up a wrong assignment.
So it's not about shortchanging yourself. It's really about upskilling, reskilling. And that's been the mantra this year, fully. What are you doing about yourself this year?
Absolutely. It is about upskilling. It is about reskilling. It is not about moping and groping and cribbing and cursing, right? That's not going to get you anywhere. People who are smart are doing that. People who are smart are learning new things. And young people are pretty good at this, right? I mean, they know how to navigate this new system. And I think they will figure out a way. And they are, people of my generation tend to say that these young people are spoiled, etc., etc. But the fact is, they are a lot smarter than all of us, right? And they'll figure out a way. Only thing is, probably they need the help of a mentor, of a coach, so that they are kind of helped in their journey to look at new directions to go.
Yeah. So in fact, that's really where I was coming to. Emotions get the better of many of us, Ambi. And what role, or how can a mentor or a coach, or how can they even identify that they need one, or who to take on? Because that's something they all grapple with. Do I need a mentor? Do I not? Will the mentor help? Do I get a coach? How does one decide? What have you seen in your experience with the youth?
Well, I think mentor, if I'm a young student and let's say I'm passing out of my college and I'm kind of worried, I think mentor could be, anyone. Could be one of your good friends, could be a mentor to you, could be someone who's your senior, could be one of your professors. So that is your immediate circle, right? But if you graduated and you started working, then the world is more open. Then you can actually look for a professional engagement with a mentor or a coach. And I know of some senior executives who've said, look, I don't care whether my company pays for it or not. I will hire a coach for myself, right? So they check around and they find someone and they feel that it is money well spent. It's worth spending that money to hire a coach talk to their coach once every month for a couple of hours to get to understand how they can stay resilient, how they can improve their agility quotient, or like I said, how they can spring back from rejection every time. The point is, we have to invest in that. Some of us, some of us are very lucky. We had very good bosses who also turned out to be good mentors, who one could go to and talk to and get good words of advice from them. Not everyone is not so lucky. In which case, maybe you need to look around, talk to friends, find out who can help, and hire that person. If it costs money, so be it. Uh, but hire that person and use that person to improve your own agility quotient. It's money well spent, money well invested.
I agree. When I started out as a coach, I saw a lot of people think of coaching as a fix it till they later started realizing it's more an investment. And especially as an entrepreneur or a senior leader, when it's quite lonely on the top, or you can't always share easily with another, that confidant is much, much required and helpful to uncover your blind spots.
Absolutely. I think there's also this little myth that a coach is given for people who have problems. So actually, a coach is given to people who have potential.
Very
Uh,
true. Why would I put good money behind bad money?
exactly.
I
Exactly. So in India, we've had this big issue. My CHRO says, I should take a coach. मेरा problem है, क्या करूं? Actually, it should see another positive. Uh, I hope more and more executives, senior executives, go to the CHRO saying, look, I think I need a coach. Please find me one, right? Uh, and if you don't want to pay for it, I'll pay for it. I don't care. But find me a good coach. I wish that happens. I wish more and more of that. More and more senior executives go to their CHRO and say, look, I need a coach. I need some inputs in this area. I need a coach. I wish that happens. Which happens internationally. It's very clear, right? Once you hit a particular grade in management, the management says, look, you will get a coach. That's almost seen as a perquisite.
It's a given. It's a
Yeah,
perk that is part of your growth plan, actually.
absolutely. But in India, that's yet to happen.
Yeah.
I hope it happens in my lifetime. I hope so.
So now that we've come to a place where, when we're talking about growth mindset and growth plan, do you have any words you'd like to say for, young entrepreneurs or aspiring leaders as we close this conversation today?
I think I think young entrepreneurs and aspiring leaders have to develop a stronger resilience quotient at going forward. Now, it's easy to say that, look, this company is so successful, but every successful company has actually gone through probably 10 years of struggle. Any company which is successful to some degree today, go back and look at the first 10 years. Chances are they could have shut down any of those 10 years, right? They were struggling, going hand to mouth with a big company. Take Infosys. All these companies have had 10 years of struggle. I think the unfortunate thing is the hoopla around startup and unicorn is putting a lot of wrong things into entrepreneurs' heads. Uh, I want to become a unicorn. You cannot want to become a unicorn. What you got to do is build a good organization, and maybe you'll become a unicorn. But first, build a good organization, make a good product, provide a good service, employ good people, train them well, and then you will become a unicorn. But becoming a unicorn cannot be the objective of a startup. Right? Similarly, if you're a smart young executive, remember your objective cannot be that I want to be CEO by the time I'm 35 or 40. No, take it from me, that's not going to happen. Then what? What is your plan B? Right? Find satisfaction in what you're doing. Do interesting things in your career. Keep learning. Keep pivoting. Keep doing new things. Develop an overall personality, not just in the job, but get involved in industry association, professional bodies. Develop your overall leadership skill, right? If you do that, probably you'll stay happy, you'll stay more engaged, and mind you, you will probably get the CEO's job. But don't start dreaming at the age of 30 that by the time I'm 40, I want to be CEO. That cannot be it, right? That cannot be it.
In fact, I think that sometimes limits our vision for what's even more possible for us by getting committed to something that seems to be out there. And while there may be a lot more out there, like your classic story of levers to rediffusion, very
Yeah,
from.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think there is a lot there, and especially in campuses, people get very fixated that I want to get a job in this company, and if I don't get the job in this company,
The day
I
one placement and so on, so forth, the pressure
it's
of that.
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This day one placement and day zero placement is completely ridiculous because we know for a fact that 50% of the MBAs quit their first job in less than 2 years. So what are you talking about day one, right?
I
Doesn't
guess,
matter.
yeah, I think that competitive streak or the validation stays very strong sometimes. Yeah, no, very. So thank you so much, Ambi. This has been a very, very, insightful conversation with nuggets for many people here. Really enjoyed our conversation with you today. Thank you for uh, being a part of our Pep Talks episode. Really appreciate having you, and have a very good weekend.
Yeah, thank you, and let me wish you, Arka Leadership, and all the viewers a great career ahead, and keep springing back. Don't let any rejection keep you down. Keep spring back with great energy and enthusiasm. And thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambi.